world, not only because we all need extra content while we're staying at home during social distancing, but also because I feel that this kind of content, the content specifically related to plant-based businesses and the solutions that they represent for our health and the health of the planet, I feel that this information's not out there, and that's ridiculous, because at this point, we have so many plant-based businesses to talk about and discuss and to look at their growth and the strategies and the overall arc of the business conversation as to where plant-based businesses are going and how they're poised to grow and ultimately become the future of our food system. Primarily, we'll be talking about food, but of course, there's also fashion and vegan leather and meat and dairy substitutes in all of its forms. So please join me while we're in social distancing every day on Facebook Live on the Jane Velez Mitchell channel at 1 o'clock weekdays. And today I'm thrilled to kick off the Plant-Based Business Hour with Curt Albright, who's going to join the show. He's the managing member of Clear Current Capital. Curt, thanks for being with me today.
Hi there. Thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm thrilled to have you because I think you have a very interesting background. Before we get to how it is that you do what you do today, please tell me, what exactly is Clear Current Capital?
So Clear Current Capital is a venture capital fund. And we set up the fund initially really to give access to investors who wanted to get into the plant-based food and cultivated meat space. Prior to our fund, there really wasn't a vehicle available for individual investors to get involved in this space, mainly due to the fact that the funds that I work closely with that are aligned had been set up as trusts. So there was only one family or one member that was funding that venture capital fund. Clear Current Capital has actually 26, including myself, limited partners or investors in our fund, and we're super targeted. We only invest in plant-based food companies or cultivated meat companies. And what I'm trying to do is we've already closed Fund 1 down to new investors. We're really trying to build a track record so that I can help validate the space and bring more investments into the space and create a more liquid market for plant-based food, cultivated meat as quickly as possible.
A little background on what a venture capital fund is for those maybe watching today that do not know. This isn't the sort of investment you can get in at the $100 level or the $1,000 level. You're looking for major investors here to take a startup plant-based company through their first round of funding. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, we'll invest. We want to be in that first round of investment if possible, and we'll invest usually through like Series A, Series B, but we're early stage investors for sure, and that's really the reason for that is impact. I mean, I'm doing this because I want to impact this space as much as I possibly can while I'm still around and kicking. So, and you're right, it's not for individual investors. A lot of the reason that we can't set up a fund for smaller investors is because of the risk that's associated with early stage investing in private equity. So the companies that we invest into are not publicly traded. There is no liquidity in this space per se. And so the securities themselves are not listed individually with the SEC. So because of the lack of oversight, rules and regulations say that you have to be an accredited investor. You have to have the ability to weather the storm and lose money, all of your investment, if it were to happen while you're in this risky space. And obviously, my job as a fund manager is to de-risk the situation. But, you know, I mean, I come into this space over a long period of time, many years of, you know, philanthropy donor and supporting animal welfare. So to watch what happened to this space is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I'm really excited about what's occurred in the last 2 or 3 years to bring finance, to bring business, to bring these new companies into this space. And I want to use my background and experience to help make it happen as best that I can. So again, we know at least we were able to bring in, we have a wide range of all accredited investors. Some are super wealthy and some are, you know, just over the threshold of accredited, but every one of them gets the reason why we're doing this. This is an impact fund that will hopefully beat our competition in returns so that we will attract more money into this space and help, keep the liquidity and create more liquidity for companies to grow quicker into this space.
And what do you mean exactly by an impact fund for people who maybe don't know what that means either?
Yeah, impact, that's a great question because impact means so much to so many people. I mean, I've been on a couple of panels here in Florida for family offices and private equity that called themselves impact conferences. And, my background is coming from the animal welfare side. So impact to me means animal suffering. It means human suffering. It means environmental issues. To be on panels with cryptocurrency and commercial real estate investors was a little challenging at times. So what's exciting about this space is that I'm targeting food, and we as a group are targeting food because we see it as being at the core issue of animal suffering and all of these other issues that factory farms bring. So, I mean, what we're trying to do is pull animals out of the food system, out of the supply chain as quickly as possible. So what I'm trying to do is invest in companies that will remove a large number of animals from the food system now, and then as we scale them up, have an even greater impact on that supply chain as they grow. And it's all about removing animals from the food system.
Yes, and that's exactly why I'm doing the show, is because I want people to realize now more than ever, as each and every one of us, whether you are infected or not, we're all acting as if we're infected, and we're all staying home for social distancing reasons for 2 weeks, if not more. This means many people are out of jobs. So you look at this economic impact that a pandemic can have, whether or not you're infected, you are affected because you are staying home, not making money. So clearly we need solutions. We can't be reliant on meat industries in which these meat-borne pandemics have wreaked havoc, not just today, but also with Ebola and SARS and mad cow disease, et cetera.
Right.
The Spanish flu pandemic of 1918. So we have seen this before, and it's time to get our heads out of the sand and move in a better direction for our health, for the health of the planet, for our wallets, as we're all experiencing right now.
Right.
I just want to go back to a couple of things that you said, and I do want to get to your background because I think it's interesting how you switched from investment banking to really do this kind of very focused impact investing. The people, yourself included, but the people who invest with you, it wouldn't be considered a donation at all. I know that they're looking for returns, but the risks that they're taking are quite high. And I think the gratitude that we can all feel for those who are putting their dollars on the line to pave the way, hoping that they can give these startup companies some kind of runway to take off with, particularly in a seed round one funding scenario that otherwise wouldn't be there, because it's not government that's funding, and it's not large meat and dairy or large corporations generally that are funding. People are really taking risks and putting their neck on the line for what they believe in, as are you.
Totally. I really appreciate you saying that and putting that out there. And I mean, we're creating a market that hasn't been there before. So, like I mentioned before, this fund is not set up as a trust. We have 26 individual investors. And so I spent about, 18 months traveling across the country, meeting with individuals and family offices to try to plant seeds and let them know how impactful this fund was going to be and what the potential returns could be. Individuals who come from the animal welfare side or get what we're doing and why we're doing it are really the ones who followed through and put money into the fund. The ones that were more institutional, like family offices or asset managers, struggled with it. And that's to be expected because there isn't a track record. And so, when you're trying to create a new market, if I had an easier time talking to people that were in California because they saw the .com boom and they saw, what happened in Silicon Valley. And to me, that's the approach that we're taking with plant-based food and cultivated meat, is that we're trying to reinvent the entire food industry. I mean, it's a $1 trillion industry. So it's very exciting, but on the other side, it's a lot to go after. And so, without a track record yet, those who came in now are the pioneers, and thank you for the hand clap to them, because they deserve it for coming in. And it's my job to try to de-risk this space, work closely with the companies that we're invested into. And I didn't anticipate doing what I'm doing, 5 years ago. I thought I was going to stay in my investment banking bubble and donate money to help effective nonprofits. It's just that everything happened so quickly on the business side. It got me excited. I realized how much greater effect I could have if I just came in all the way, professionally into this space and gave this a run and tried to build a firm around it. So that's what I'm trying to do. And for me, I mean, it's not about the money. This is about building that track record and then building a firm around it, bringing a second fund, hopefully within the next year, if we're able to, depending upon what happens here in the markets. But we're not going away. And the plant-based food space is growing at a far greater clip than the food space is in its entirety. And again, like you were saying, you look at swine flu, bird flu, Ebola, all of these things are coming because of our food system. And that's before you get to the way the animals are treated, what it's doing to the oceans, and all the other things that we come from the animal welfare side are fully aware of.
That's right. And what it's doing to our communities, poisoning water streams and land, et cetera. So there needs to be a complete upheaval, but that is a very long journey. I love what you say. And so we're getting a little sense for what you did before, that you were deep in investment banking and it was really money driven, not impact driven. We've all discussed what that is already. But you find yourself in this unique position where you have the expertise of an investment banker and you've decided to use that skill set to act, for lack of a better term, as a translator or someone who bridges the gap between this biotech entrepreneurial world, also animal welfare related, and the strict money making world. And somebody has to talk their language. Somebody has to vet this, as you say, and de-risk it so that they aren't so afraid to get in, so that they understand the financial ramifications. Clearly, meat and dairy are having trouble. It is on the rise globally, with countries like India and China contributing to the about 2% rise in demand for meat, but it's decreasing in Western Europe. It's decreasing in the United States because it is so negatively impactful on our lives. We haven't talked about this, but just the potential bankrupting of Medicare, because so many people are getting sick with diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, obesity. You've been eating meat and dairy for 6 decades. By the time you get to 65, everyone's got heart issues and living on pills, and that's, Medicare can't sustain that. So
if you're lucky, 65.
What?
If you're lucky, you don't feel it until you're 65.
That's right. That's right. If you're lucky. So when the system has to take everybody at 65, it's an overload. So I love that you are this bridging of the gap, and you're using your skill set to make that happen. Can you tell me, in the time that you've been doing this, have you seen a shift in the interest of those people who want to invest?
Oh, I think so. And I would applaud the work being done by Ethan Brown and his group at Beyond Meat, because, I remember when that IPO hit and how crazily successful it was that day. And then the following month, I mean, what they single-handedly did, in the public markets with that IPO, when there were others that were not being treated so well, created not only free advertising, but it validated the space. I can't tell you how many times I watched the folks on CNBC joking around about plant-based food and veggies and all of this stuff, and trying to figure out, why is this company trading like this? I don't know that they ever did or cared to, but I can tell you that what fell from the sky in my email box, just organically from all over the world, was phenomenal. And so it did get people's attention. When you see a company go from a $1.4 billion IPO valuation up to $10 billion in a matter of months, that gets investors' attention. And it did. So, is there a long-term effect from that? I think so, but, that will be proven out. But I think what it did is it gave a reference to all of us who have come into this at the early stage. And again, what we're trying to do is appeal to those investors who want to get ahead of the curve, and there are plenty of them that do. And honestly, there's more money floating around in these markets than is necessary looking for a home. And if a new idea hits and it gets validated, there will be a lot of money trying to get in, and that's what I see happening in this space. Now, again, we just went in the Dow from 29,000 and change to 19,000 in short order, 3 weeks or whatever, and so that's going to flush a lot of money the other way, and the risks associated with that are great. So we'll just have to wait and see how that pans out over time. But it's not going to shape the reason why we're doing this. I mean, this is a heart-led mission for me. I'm in this for the right reasons, and the folks that I'm working closely with at the other aligned funds are in it for the right reasons, and the investors can read that excitement. They can read that authenticity when you meet with them. And now it's just a matter of just validating what we're doing and giving them vehicles to get involved with. So I think the rocket ship has taken off. Now it's just a matter of how can we get enough talent, how can we get enough companies on the right track to really get the product out there. I mean, to me, it's really about price, it's about taste, and it's about convenience. Convenience to me is the toughest part of that equation.
Yes, GFI, Good Food Institute, always says that it's about price, taste, and convenience. When I was at GFI, the meeting last September, I interviewed Lisa Feria from Stray Dog Capital, which does something similar to what you're doing. And at that time, of course, this was before any market crashes, but she was saying that the money out there interested in plant-based because of the Beyond Meat IPO she was calling it crazy, stupid money. What she meant by that wasn't that it was stupid to get involved. What she meant by that is that people just want to be involved with even understanding why this is a solution-oriented arena. They were just wanted to be a part of it, but didn't even understand the great impact that being a part of it would have. So I'm wondering if you're seeing even meat and dairy perhaps hit you up to be part of your fund.
I haven't gotten that much. I haven't reached out or received interest from meat and dairy directly. Indirectly, I've answered that question a few times, and the way I look at that is I want to work with anyone that will accelerate what we're doing and try to work with them. But there's always got to be a caveat to it and make sure that you know who you're working with. That hasn't occurred up to now. Everybody again that's on board with Clear Current Capital Fund 1 is impact oriented, but again, I don't believe that return's going to be separate from our impact. I think they're not mutually exclusive, and I'm super excited. I mean, we're in 10 companies already, and 4 of them are making huge strides forward already. And I can tell you that the follow-on investments that I've looked at and been involved with already is probably the biggest surprise that I had. And being coached and coming from the investment banking side into private equity, it is a little bit different space. And the folks that I knew that had experience in the space that were helping me during that transition were saying, keep dry powder around, likely in year 3, year 4 for those follow-ons. And it's happening sooner than that, much sooner. And that's because of the health of this space. It's because of the excitement of this space. And, again, if you're outside of this and you're not heart-led, you don't understand what's going on. To see the market waiting on a product hit and the demand that's just waiting in the market to buy the product before it's there, that's unique to the plant-based food space. And I give credit to the effective nonprofits for all the people they've touched.
Well, I want to go over a little bit who's in your portfolio, because you have some great brands. Many of the people have been on my show. Fora, I love them. Andrew McClure and his partner, I love the 2 of them. Derek and Chad Sarno with Good Catch Foods, of course, their product's doing great. Lou Cooperhouse in clean seafood.
Blue Nalu.
Yeah, Blue Nalu. I love him doing clean seafood. So they have raised a lot of money and are poised to stay on track, which is wonderful. There are just a lot of companies that I write down my little.
We're in Alpha Foods. Alpha was our first one, and they're doing great things and just finished. I mean, Good Catch, Blue Nalu have all brought massively successful recent rounds. So it's really heartwarming to see that. But what it's also done is, because of that success, and because of those of us who were able to get in early and continue to invest, it proves and de-risks for the later funds to see, hey, they're still investing in the fund, so we want to get in too, because we can see the quality funds continuing to invest down the timeline. So it's nice to be in that role so early in the game.
And how do you decide at this point? There are many small plant-based businesses. How do you decide who you're going to put in your fund? Just you answer this question, think of the words of advice you might be giving to a young plant-based startup.
The advice I give to new startups is more about them than it is about the market. I mean, so the market dictates for us, because again, we're a small fund and targeted to impact. And in that impact, then, we want to be protein oriented. We're looking for a center plate, going after the biggest markets we can, because that's where we will have the greatest effect. So I'm not looking to invest in snack foods or delivery companies or fashion. We're food only. So that alone takes out a lot of the inquiries that I receive. From a founder's perspective, the biggest thing that I stress is play to your strengths. I mean, no one has, a full deck of aces in their hand. I mean, I don't. And so the things that I'm not good at, like science and R&D, I go to others who are good at it and bring them in so that they can help round out my circle and fill in the holes that I bring to the table. So when I'm doing due diligence, I can speak about what I'm looking for and validate what we're investing into. Same thing for a startup company. I mean, if the founder's background is science, get another founder whose background is in marketing and sales. If it's operations, kind of the same thing. When you put 2 or 3 founders together that are of the same background, that's kind of generally a red flag, because it's all going to have to get filled in at some point. So I love seeing experienced founders. I love seeing founders who don't have all the answers. I love seeing founders who, are teachable. And again, it's heart-led. I mean, that's the beauty of this space, which again, with my background, that's not where I come from. I mean, I come from a very traditional investment banking world. Not that it was all a money grab all the time, but it wasn't like being in this space. It's very enriching to me to be in the middle of this space, to be working with New Crop and Stray Dog Capital and others that are aligned, working well with others like that. And it's not about protecting what we're doing. It's about trying to raise all ships in this space. And so that's the same approach that I take with founders. If somebody is looking to start a company, I'm happy to talk to them. I work closely with the Good Food Institute and have from the beginning. And that's been, super valuable to me because of the resources that they bring. And really, that's where this whole idea came from, because, what Bruce was able to do in starting the Good Food Institute just blew my mind, because it was just the right place at the right time to do that. And now what they're doing to support the whole space and do it internationally is mind-boggling. So, we need more as we spread out and get wider in this space. We're going to need more talent from every angle to get in and just help work together to make this happen. But it's happening.
That's one of the reasons that I wanted to interview you, is because you're a perfect example of what I like to call the bingo effect. So when your skill set meets your passion, you're so much more impactful than you would be if you're working in an area that you're not passionate about. And all of us carry the torch with such immense passion. It does give us hope for the future. But I do want to say, Curt Albright, managing member of Clear Current Capital, it's not all rose petals. So there are some, I'll call them gaps, let's say in the timeline of a small company like Good Food, Good Catch, for example, or Rebellious Foods or others that are doing quite well. But that's very different than being at a commercialized level across the United States. And so I was in a conference yesterday where they were saying there's a gap in the United States of contract manufacturing plants. And so you get to the point where you're big enough to say, I'm going to contract this out, and we're going to start producing at a level where we could actually perhaps demo distributing to the United States in anticipation of later doing a capital investment for our own factory, let's say, give that example. There's this gap in the middle of manufacturing plants that are willing to contract out. So can you talk about some of the challenges of taking even a small successful company and really getting it to Beyond Meat?
Yeah, there's going to be multiple hurdles, no doubt, and most of them the founders aren't going to see until they're right in the middle of it. But again, to me, that's even further reason to make sure that, well, two things, like you said, the founders are realistic about what they're taking on and starting a new company, and that it's a passion. Because I completely agree. If you're in your passion, everybody knows it. If you're not, everybody knows that too, because it's a struggle. And I know that from my own experiences. I mean, when I left my old career and came into this, it felt like I was, swimming with the current instead of swimming against it. And that to me is the easiest way to kind of tell whether you're in your passion, whether you're doing what you feel like you were meant to do. And for founders, it comes across. And if you're there is no straight line in starting a company and scaling it Beyond Meat. The co-man issue is a real issue. It's also an issue in the lines of production, because you may find a co-man that's able to make and manufacture your food, but if it shares space with an animal-based product, you're probably not going to want to run it on that line. And so that's another area that has come up a number of times. Go ahead.
I actually see this, if we choose to focus on the future and not where we were yesterday or last year, but where we're going, I actually see this as an invitation, as hard as it may be to swallow, that this is where you want meat and dairy to start being your companions in business, because you actually need these deep lines of distribution. You need this capital investment that already exists for them, perhaps factories that they could dedicate solely to plant-based lines. You need their deep pockets for advertising. I point to something like Maple Leaf, which bought up Greenleaf.
I was just thinking of when you were saying that.
And Life, and they have invested, should be opening any week now, obviously probably some delays with coronavirus, but they have now invested in Indiana, in the heart of animal agriculture, the largest manufacturing plant of plant-based items only in North America, 460 jobs. When 460 jobs, you imagine that 4 people are dependent on every paycheck. You're looking at about 1,800 people who are dependent on a plant-based paycheck. You watch how quickly people become plant-based. So, the impact that they're making in the Indiana animal agriculture community, in addition to just being able to invest in plant-based food, is dramatic. And I don't think that would have been possible without Maple Leaf's money behind it. So,
for sure.
It's
not just their money, it's their connections for putting that together. I mean, it takes a lot of talent to build a major manufacturing facility, and it takes time. But yeah, you're right. I mean, and that's why we want to, if anyone has connections, I'm happy to talk to anyone at any level, because we've just got to connect those dots and be useful to the space as a whole, because you never know who knows who's got those connections for that. If they don't invest in funds, great, but maybe they know a person who spent their whole life doing drawings and putting food manufacturing facilities together, that if we match that person up with a large bank who those folks are starting to contact us, we can get the funding and put that together quickly to build a manufacturing facility just for plant-based food, and somehow structure it so that we can bring 3 or 4 plant-based food companies onto a new campus and start it running quickly.
Yes,
and those are the kind of things that we're very interested in right now.
So we're back to the bingo effect. No matter what your skill set is, if it's doing architectural drawings, no matter what your skill set is, you can lend your skill set to this passion that we all have, which is moving our food system from meat and dairy to plant-based foods for ourselves, for our health system, for the planet, for our wallets. So from your expertise, from the vantage point where you sit right now, perhaps you can walk me through some of the challenges that you see. I was talking about the contract manufacturing gap, but there must be others. What are some of the hurdles that you see? Because You need more than hamburgers. It can't just be Beyond Meat and Impossible Burger. We have pork, we have chicken, we have other hurdles. So, I mean, plant-based milks are doing quite well. They seem poised to take over at some point the majority of the market. They're about 19%. I've heard conflicting.
Yeah, I've heard 19 too.
But 19%. But, they've got a big push behind them because 65% of the U.S. is lactose intolerant, and it's much higher in Asian American and African American communities. So they've got a big health push behind them. Not the same for bacon. So, and we need more than just hamburgers. So maybe you can walk me through what are some of the challenges that you see?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I think some of the challenges, I just want to stress that, in a lot of different areas, time just takes time. So we can do a lot of things to make it happen quicker, and we can not do a lot of things to make it happen quicker because, again, this is $1 trillion industry, and it's everything. I mean, when I would look at it at conferences at plant-based food, and I remember to not just pick it up and eat it, but actually look at this conference to make sure it didn't have animal-based products in it, even though it said plant-based. 9 times out of 10, it had whey or some other product that was in it, because I'm outside the bubble. And, so inside the bubble is quite a bit different look. Outside the bubble, yeah, we need to get all the food items out there. We need to make sure that the taste is great, and we need to make sure that the supply chain is solid so that it doesn't get sold out repeatedly. And then we have issues not just with the consumer, but also with the retailers. So there's a lot of inside infrastructure that needs to be built, and that's being done, but that's the part that takes time. Again, back to your other point, the more experienced people that we can attract into this space that are coming in this for whatever reason they're coming into it, if they're willing to be open, if they're willing to do the homework on why plant-based food is so important, they'll see it and want more. And that's been my experience with this so far. I wish I could say there's one thing, but right now it's like the reason there's so many burgers is because it's a monster market, and it's a 1-to-1 ratio. Every plant-based burger takes out an animal-based burger. I realize that people may eat more or eat less depending. So there's other parts to that equation, but it's a direct, plant-based versus an animal-based burger. So it was an easy area for everyone to focus on, and it was just ripe to go after. And honestly, it's amazing to me what Beyond Meat's been able to do with the flavors and the textures, and now with the sausages that they've brought out, and that technology and that research and development, will get out into other products. And so, I remember back in the animal welfare days, we were always talking about a 11% or so tipping point as to when, if we get to 11 or 12% vegans, it'll start to happen quicker. Well, it hasn't got there. My hope is that we'll be able to do that from a top-down approach in the food industry and get, it's already there in milk. Now, if we can get there in burgers, and then that helps get us there in pork, and that helps get us there in pizza, whatever it is, we're going to be trying to hit each area. So there are all these areas, to me, are white space, and they're huge from a monetary standpoint. So no matter what specialty a founder wants to come after, if it's a Main Street kind of food, it's very ripe to reinvent because it's so early in this stage. What's difficult and what needs more help is all of the ingredients. It's the capital, and that's what we're trying to do, is grow this stage so there's more early stage heart-led money available to fund these new companies and help them grow quickly. And we're already attracting in the later stage VCs. That's kind of mending itself because when they see a new area that's doing this, and it has an unbelievable impact too, it's coming. But so we have to give them more areas to get involved with, because $10 to $50 million checks doesn't help a company that needs 500,000 to pay 3 people.
So are you saying the challenges that you're seeing is supply? So the supply of ingredients, and that is perhaps a stopgap in getting people to be able to ramp up production as they need it?
No, I was using supply more as early stage supply, meaning capital. Okay. Just different kinds of capital for them. The ingredient side, there are some supply issues, and there's no question that pea protein has gone off the charts, and we're seeing a lot of that turning into international. Ingredients are difficult because it takes so much capital to change that system. Ingredion and some other very large corporations are going after that market, and I think that that's going to help turn that around and bring more of that market into the U.S. That's just not an area that we get involved with. So I was talking more about the early stage, retail companies that we're trying to help grow.
Well, I'll comment on what you were saying before, that, every burger that is plant-based is a burger that's not an animal burger. And so I would just reach out to everyone watching here. So even if you're not an investor who can do impact investing with clear current capital, you do have a voice, and your consumer dollars matter more than all of this put together. So if you're at the grocery store and you're not seeing the Beyond Meat or the No Evil Foods or the Good Catch or the Alpha, you're not seeing the brand that you want, tell them, I'd like to see options. Where is my tofurkey? Why are you out? Why is this section a mess? For example, I often go to the vegan section and it's a mess, like, no one in the store is paying attention. So, you have a voice, and more than anything, more than politics, more than legal, more than what meat and dairy used to represent, everybody wants your money. So voice your opinion and back it with your dollars. And I do believe that when you see your purchasing power align with your values, you really will see a shift in the world. And of course, that is helped by what Clear Current Capital is doing. So thank you for that.
Well, that's what was, but that again, that to me is it shows the power of what the groups like Mercy for Animals and the Humane Society of the United States and the Humane League, there are all these effective nonprofits, vegan outreach, that have spent years leafleting campuses, which I've done myself, because that's what was being done at that time, and they're still going at it. But what it's done is it's created demand in this market like no other market has. And so it's up to us to build these companies to be able to deliver into that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
No, I'm just saying and I tell that story to others in the food industry that are outside. They do not get it. And I get that they don't get it because they didn't see it. I was, leafleting, concerts and MFA things, and I'm flying to Chicago for a bankers conference. And I remember one trip, the first thing I did was meet up with Michael Nielsen and Pamphlet and hand out leaflets. And it just felt great.
Yes.
And so that work has helped raise awareness. And now we've got Game Changers, and there's more movies coming and books coming. The awareness side of this is not going to go down. We just have to be able to bring more products to market to feed the demand and to get, the numbers are going up, but they would be going up. It's like the lack of test kits for the coronavirus right now. We know there's more issue out there than we know because there's not enough test kits. Well, it's the same thing. Our numbers would be higher in the plant-based food. I hate to run that analogy, but our production, our numbers would look more impressive versus regular food if there was more product in the market.
And if there were more,
what's that?
And if there were more distribution.
Right, and so the companies that I'm working with in our portfolio are doing a great job of building a strong foundation to build a firm from. And No Evil Foods, I knew them from my time in Charlotte, and so it's been great to go full circle with them. They just opened up a new manufacturing facility this past April, and they're already talking about more needs for manufacturing. And again, it's a great problem to have, and building more jobs in this field is exactly what we want to do. And eventually the politicians will see that happening and they'll take hold of it.
I actually think politics is the last domino to fall. If you're waiting for politicians, you've probably experienced this already with coronavirus. If you're waiting for politicians to solve the problems of the planet, you're going to be waiting a long time, and your future generations of your personal family will suffer because of it, because they're not looking out for you. You need to advocate for yourself. You need to look out for yourself. Thank you, Internet, for making all of this possible. You can research what is best for you and look out for yourself and use your purchasing power and your voice to shift how you want the future to be. And that's what we're all doing here. So our time has almost run out. I have a couple quick questions for you, kind of rundown, 1-2 word answers where it's possible. Sometimes not going to be possible, but these are all meant to be quick, right off the top of your head. What are your predictions for the future?
My prediction is that we're going to change the food system permanently.
Can you give me a time frame?
I think we're going to hit milestones in the next year or two, and then we're going to hit industry-wide milestones within 5.
Excellent. What do you wish you knew 10 years ago that you know now?
10 years ago, well, what I wish I knew was how effective one person could be if they tap into their passion.
Yes. Yes, I could not say it better. Absolutely. You're having a bad day. Things aren't going as you would like them to go. What is the phrase or expression you say to yourself to pull yourself out of it and to keep going?
I'm not that important and I need to do the next right thing.
Ooh, I like it. What's your favorite snack?
Favorite snack? I like the Engine 2 granola. That's probably my go-to.
Wonderful. Rip Esselstyn there with Engine 2. You had a really long day. You've been traveling. You've been meeting with people all over the country. You walk through the door. What's the one meal you can make in 10 minutes? It's always good.
You know, it's interesting. That's changed. I mean, I pretty much eat chili salads, but it's now changed to the Go Leaf. The little pouches, Go Leaf or Green Leaf. Mm-hmm. Delicious, and it meets everything, and it's ready within 10 minutes most.
What are we always going to find in your fridge?
Always find ginger, garlic, and green drink.
Woo! Curt Albright, managing member of Clear Current Capital. Thank you for being with me today. Thank you, very first guest on the Plant-Based Business Hour. I do think
it's an honor.
When we really need to be talking about these business issues. There are business shows for every other topic on the planet, and there should be one for the plant-based business world because it is large, it is expanding, it is growing quickly, and there's lots of money to be made. So everybody, plant-based or not, should get with the program right now and start investing in more plant-based businesses. Curt, again, thank you.
Thank you.
Available on LinkedIn. I've loved having you. I do want to send a reminder to everybody that please follow me on Facebook, and you will find this interview on my YouTube channel, on my website, elizabethalfano.com, and on LinkedIn. I have a radio show every Sunday, so please don't forget that. Tune in with me every Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific time. It's the Elizabeth Albano Radio Show on WCGO and the Smart Talk Radio Network. I will be with you during quarantine every weekday at 1 p.m. to talk about business in the plant-based world. It's the Plant-Based Business Hour. Together, we are taking back our health and the health of the planet. Thanks for watching.